Okay, thank you. So once again, welcome to the website's call, everyone. So we'll start with Ruth's topic now. Ruth, you'll take it from here.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone. So the context of this topic is Layer 5 is currently participating in She Code Africa Contribute-On program. Sorry, I spelled it wrongly, contribute-on and not contribution. But She Code Africa program, and the program is about like something, getting more women involved in open source. And the scope of the program is similar to GSOC, getting the mentees to contribute to a project. And Layer 5 is running the project as like the context of this project is setting up a leaderboard on Discourse layer5.io platform. So setting up like a leaderboard project. So I think I'll give it to Lee now. We are trying to like set up issues for this project and get the mentees to start contributing.
Nice. Yeah, good. We don't happen to have any of the mentees on this call by chance.
Yeah, I just sent the invite link to them right now because I don't think they have it on their calendar.
Sure.
Yeah, I just sent the invite link now to them.
Okay, so we're recording it so they can play it back.
Yeah, they can also check it out later on if none of them makes it here, but I'm here, so.
Yeah, nice. All right, so for this round, for the 2002 edition of She Code Africa, we were thinking that, well, there's a discussion forum that, like the other websites around here, is always in need of enhancement. There's lots of things to do on all of the sites, and with this forum in particular. So most of you have worked on this in the past. Discuss.layer5.io. It's an instance of Discourse, discourse.org. So we're just running an instance of this open source software deployed at discuss.layer5.io. And this project's been around for, well, so I can get a sense for how long the project has been around based on how old some of it feels. So I'm guessing like 8 years, maybe 10 years, somewhere in there is how long this has been around. Its age shows. So some of how you deal with it is a little bit, I don't know. Anyway, it's highly configurable. So to speak to its positives, it's highly configurable. One of the things that we want to do is try to encourage activity and try to encourage folks to ask questions, answer questions on here. That's primarily the function of the forum. There's other things to be done in a discussion forum like this. So kind of like Slack, a place where people are interacting, you might send out a poll. Maybe have a reminder. There's integrations. There's an integration with our Slack. Actually, we have a custom Slack command in the Layer 5 Slack that will, take, if you've said something in Slack, you can use the Slack command to automatically create a post here, which is nice because we encourage people to try to ask their questions here first and then drive into Slack. We lose history in Slack. We end up repeating ourselves a lot. People can't search the Slack archives. They can do that here. There's a lot of benefit that the rest of the world can see questions that have been asked and answered. So we want to celebrate. We want to uplift and celebrate and encourage people to ask questions here, to answer questions here, to post meeting minutes here. Yeah, like for a while, a couple of different community managers were posting meeting minutes here like once a week. There's Ruth. Yeah, so great. So we've done a little bit of customization, as you can tell from this. So this is a vanilla instance of Discourse, more or less, from the folks that make it, Discourse. We've customized a bit. It, like I said, this much to the Discourse is highly customizable. So like they've done a great job there. Now, one of the issues that we're having with our deployment that I'll note right now is our Redis instance is occasionally having a short memory. So we'll see if that is an issue on our call. Cool. And so Bamik, welcome to the call. I muted you not to be rude at all. Please unmute when you have a comment or a question. In the meantime, there's just a lot of background noise. So, all right, good. So, all right, Lee, like, okay, good. We all know what a chat forum is. Like, what do we want to do to this thing? How are we going to help make it exciting for people? Well, one of the thoughts is something of a leaderboard. All right, so leaderboard is that's not necessarily a specific thing. It's more like a concept, more like who's been asking the most questions. They're leading the category of highest poster. Posts are like the threads or what have you that is what referred to here. So this is a post. Great. Okay, so to give you a better sense of what those can be and what some of the existing ones are, I'm going to go to the administrative section, if I can, of this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there. So the Redis instance that we have is having some problems. Anyway, the boards are just like who solved the most problems, who answered the most questions this month. And so, great. There's a ton of those stats that are available via REST API. The REST portions of its REST API are public, meaning you don't have to authenticate to get to the REST API. And so API docs, you can forego, like you can get the total number of users, I believe, here. Like here, you'd have to authenticate to create a user. Here, if you just get a list of badges for a user, you may not need to be authenticated. Anyway, there's a lot of info that you can get over their REST API. That's one way of gleaning information about who's solved the most or provided the most solutions. So as we create a board of like the top 10 solution providers for this month, that's the idea, is that we would then place that. Either we could have a navigation menu here to say like top 10, I don't know, like this menu item leads to the top viewed posts for the past year from today's date to a year back. And that's the leaderboard for highest views for the year. Great. Like we can add additional boards, either additional links here or additional boards in here, or take this one away and replace it, or a bunch of different ways. So we've added in, like this is an example of something that we added in. It's just a configuration item. You just go in and say, what HTML do you want to display in a sidebar? And so in the same way, there can be a sidebar for this month's top solution providers. So to further familiarize with this instance of Discourse, there is a Layer 5 community drive on Google Drive. In there are, there's two documents, one of which is discuss.layer5.io design spec. So, more or less any feature or initiative that the community has, we end up creating a design spec for. So this design spec was created before all of you, all of you came to work on discuss.layer5.io. So this is where we said, hey, we should have one of these. What technology should we use? Where should it be deployed? What's the purpose of this? Hey, what plugins should we install? Which ones should we not install, but maybe should at some point? Should we start with a theme? How do we customize it? Where do we get inspiration for other sites that are running the same discourse? What categories? How should we organize all this stuff? What category? Hey, now that the server is running, how do you troubleshoot it and look at logs and etc.? Oh, there's a community leaderboard. So important links. I'm not sure who put this section here, but yeah, I believe that it's talking to developing. You don't need to develop an API. That's probably just misphrased. You just read from a REST API, which has JSON. You just display the stats. So this is a good reference. You can run an instance of, so you can run a local instance of Discourse on your machine using Docker. It's one way to develop a leaderboard. There is, you don't need to do that. I mean, you don't need to. You can use the API that's running on discuss.layer5.io on the site itself. Just hit those APIs, and some of them are, like I said, unauthenticated. So some of them require that you be authenticated. Some of them might require that you will be authenticated and have like moderator privileges or admin privileges. So previously, I had given, I generated an API key, shared it with folks here. And I guess someone put it into the minutes here. So this is an API key that goes to discuss.layer5.io. It's a read-only API key, but it does allow you to get to info beyond your user across all users. So if you need to auth and then make an API call, right? The leaderboard themselves, like it can just be, HTML, JavaScript and HTML that displays something. It can be something more. These are some good links that people are showing so that they're saying, hey, here's an example of a leaderboard. Yep. On this one, it's not about top views for the last year. This one looks to be about, for the range of the last trailing week, it looks like it's sorted by the most received likes and by person. So for each person who received the most likes. Now they have a gamification score, which is kind of nice, kind of interesting. I don't know, this doesn't exactly look built in. Maybe they added it. Great, that's in part what part of our goal here is to gamify it a bit, make it both recognize people that are being active and support their efforts. Maybe gamify it to the extent that we end up reviewing the leaderboard publicly, maybe in a community meeting once a month. Here's it looks like someone has an example to a board. Oops. Yeah, interesting. So there. So yeah, they made up their own concepts, like, well, or at least it looks like they did. Maybe they didn't. Just solutions provided, likes received, replies made. Those don't look made up. Those look real. They have a script. Looks like they make a request of the API. They set up some headers to be able to authenticate. So what's the API key? What user are you using to authenticate? And then they invoke their API GET request against their deployed server, discuss.layer5.io. They provide the authentication headers. they get their response back, they expect it back as JSON, and then they start parsing through the rows of the response. They start breaking it down the array that they receive, saying, who are we talking about? Like, what email is this? How many points total do they have? They just kind of break it down, and then they come down. Looks like this, is this Ruby? Python? I get using Python. I guess this is Python. It's been a while. Yeah. So they do exactly. So it's like they've got a full board here that's custom in this many lines. And so on the off chance that people were creating something like worthy of or in need of checking into a repository and keeping track of like the board itself, some time ago, we had created a repo under the layer 5 org called Discuss board, so that it's just an empty repo with all of our scaffolding in there, so that if you wanted to check in some JavaScript or some Python or some whatever, you could do so. I recommend not using Python or Ruby or anything that doesn't execute client side. Just using JavaScript is just gonna be a lot easier all around for not having to deploy things and stuff. So at one point I had said to people like, hey, this can be done in like 2 hours. That's still I believe that to be the case. Now, that said, it's sort of like, well, if you've done it before, or if you're familiar, or if you're like, and so this is actually a perfect project for people that are participating in a Contributhon or in a program like this, because actually it can be not stretched out, it can be walked through at an even pace for a month or however long, because there's tons of things to kind of stop along the way and digest. Wait a second, API. Okay. All right, what's an API? Or wait, why are we not developing an API, but we're consuming one? What's the difference? I think. Okay. And anyway, there's just tons of things to learn throughout here. Wait a second, we need to paginate the results, like, or how many people are we going to have? Is it just gonna be a list of the top 5, top 10, or everybody? Should it be expandable beyond that? Like, there's tons of juicy things to dig into and spend time on. If you were looking to just execute quickly, like, there's public APIs to go do that against, or there's an API key here to go read the JSON. And like, so there's a lot of good resources listed. I always love an example like this, even if this is just kind of pseudocode, which is to say, hey, set up I'm going to be a client of an API. I might have to auth to it. I'm going to invoke a request. I'll expect back a response of JSON, and then I'll sift through it, structure it into what I can use, what I can start to put into HTML. It's probably a tabular thing that we're looking for, right? If you wanted to get fancy, could be a chart, like who's on the leaderboard. There's a chart that's showing, maybe it's columnar, maybe it's, not columnar, I'm sorry, maybe it's column based. And maybe you put a little person's avatar on the columns, like tons of different things to do. Maybe you have hyperlink if you click on that person, or maybe there's none. There's actually a lot of different thoughts that have been put into something like this, like how many boards should we have and of what type should they be? And for anyone who's a meshmate or a community manager, there's a separate doc that talks all about what additional boards could be. I don't think it's worth going through and really discussing it at the moment until someone has gotten some kind of an interaction going on with the API and is ready to format some stuff. But Devopriya and a few others probably on the call probably have access to that. So good. So let me step back and say and ask, if we've got questions and kind of where to people know where to jump in. Yeah, Ruth.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lee, for the explanation. and enough context. So I think what I just want to mention was I think the mentees do not have access to this to the drive.
Okay.
One of them
should-
here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they should go visit. There's a super fast solution, layer5.io/newcomers, and you'll just fill in the form there, and that will process their access to the drive. By the way, the community.
No, I was just saying I'll send the link right here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, one of the other She Code Africa participants last year had worked on this form. So it all comes full circle.
Yeah, I think Edna put a question chat.
Oh, yeah.
So Edna is asking, how can one figure out the API endpoint of one of the discourse.io sites and use it to fetch data in JSON format?
Yeah, great question. So, okay, like a good way of answering it is by example. And so I was just searching for this a second ago, like what is a good example public API that people can hit without even having to bother about authentication. And I don't know, let's see if this is one. So discuss.layer5.io. My username, I believe, is Lee. Let's see if I think I am authenticated right now as a user. So to be fair, let me open a private browsing session. I mean, everybody can go sign up, and if like, hopefully you all have an account, and if you don't, just go grab an account. But just to prove the point, if I start at incognito window and I visit just randomly, I chose user-badges and then my username.json. So it's harder to read here, but this is the JSON formatted response back. So this is saying, great, I have a collection of badges for this. Oh, we have to read it for a second. I don't know if this is for the user ID one or if this is just badge one of the response.
That's the ID for the badge.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Got you. So much easier when it's color coded. But so you get back a response like this, and I would recommend JavaScript to just simply, parse through the JSON. This user badges. Okay, these are user badges for Lee. So I guess he's a nerd and has gotten a couple of these. They kind of give you a bunch for free. Like you get quite a few to help get you going. And so, okay, so then I have to say, like, I'm a fan of what is it? Is it Web3 schools? What is it? Yeah. Stuff like this. It's just
W3 schools.
W3. Yeah. So parse Java script array. I should have said JSON. But if we take our JSON, get element ID, like, and so anyway, like, I think you know where I'm about to go, which is just, hey, I'll have an object full of JSON. This one is, what is it, parsing one? Yeah. So instead of having this, where they're pulling out, anyway, is like, hey, you just end up using, you can sort of build towards something sophisticated. Right now, this would be like, okay, manually take my JSON, go over, and now I want to play with this and pull out something. Okay, and then eventually it's like, well, look, I want to invoke a request to this URL, for the current, it's actually, in this case, it's not really for the currently signed in user, because you just want to present a leaderboard that has like for all users sorted by top problem solver for this date range. And what you'll end up doing is like, okay, well, so we're not interested in user badges. We're interested in other user stats. And so maybe it's posts, like number of posts with a solved on it. But anyway, the point is you end up figuring out where the data is that you want, making a request to that. Is that getting, Edna, is that getting you a little bit, it's not the exact answer in terms of like, well, which API? So this is the, and by the way, the word API gets used and abused every which way, but I believe what we're looking at here is the Discourse API, REST API. Within there are any number of constructs to retrieve information about. Doing a get HTTP GET request against a particular API. And see, this is funny because I just did it. I just said API. I was saying to do a GET request against the posts API. It's like, I don't know, there needs to be a better word, like the, I don't know if you'd say that this is a collection of APIs, or this is one individual API, or this is the feature or a function or one of many endpoints inside of the entire API. But anyway, point is, if you want to get information about posts, post.json. So if interesting to see what happens if this is my authenticated session. So if I just go here to posts, JSON, that's what they said, right? Yep, just at the default host, which is discuss.layer5 posts.json. Nice. So, wow, yeah, Jason had asked the question. Anyway, here's the late. So by default, this API has its own behavior. It looks like the behavior is that it's saying, I guess, working from latest backwards. So I'm not sure. It says latest posts, but like, anyway, here's one, and then you keep going and find another one, and you find maybe you find comments in there. We have to see either read. So anyway, if I were to take that same one and hit it in an unauthenticated way, well, this is not as easy to read, but we do see JSON Z. I'm trying to connect to Kubernetes, blah, blah, blah. And so you don't even have to have an account to do this. So yeah. Cool. As you go, after you kind of get comfortable with this, let's say that you have your own leaderboard. You're like, okay, well, now how do I get it into the site? That's kind of what I was talking about earlier, is a couple of different ways to either present it like we do the Twitter plugin, like here. Like if you think about it, this is nothing more than just a leaderboard, a leader quote unquote board. This one is just what all comments have been made in the latest descending order, and cut it off after 10 or however many it's showing. So this is the basis of a leaderboard here. Cool. Edna, any other questions coming to mind? What else can we? Nice.
Okay. You saw the chat, yeah.
Yeah.
She has an idea. Thank you so much, Lee. This was like a full tutorial.
Oh, yeah.
I learned to think of you myself. Thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah. What else is the? Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that I think are really nice about this particular project. Well, one, I just like getting in and messing with JavaScript and arrays and Two, like it can get, when you're in there and you're actually trying to go after a specific thing, like, no, wait a second. I want it to be for the last month. Wait, so we're like the 9th day in this month. Does that mean I'm only going to work with 9 days of, or should I have it be the last rolling 30 days? Okay, yeah, it's more interesting. You have more data, maybe more interesting to have it last rolling 30 days. Okay, fine. Yeah, and anyway, those are things that you get to decide, you get to work through as you create the board. Another nice thing that we were just reinforcing here is like, wait a second, okay, wait, I've got to go set up an entire Discourse site. So I think Lee said Redis a couple of times. Postgres is behind this as well. Blah, blah, like PHP and some Python. Like, oh man, I don't even, my system's too, it's like, wait, actually, you don't have to do that. You don't even have to have a separate staging site running. You don't even have to have a user account on this site. You can just actually, you could do once you've, so conceptually, once you've written the leaderboard for, by the way, I'm sure that a ton of people have already done this, a leaderboard for the number of who has solved the most questions. I would be dumbfounded if that isn't just available already as part of the platform. That doesn't mean that it's not a good project, that we wouldn't want to customize it. But it does mean that since you don't have to auth, it does mean that you can write the leaderboard and it'll work across any Discourse forum without you even asking their permission or so you could, if you so wanted to, is to have the world's leaderboard for all of the world's Discourse forums. Who solves the most problems in the world, or at least of the known Discourse servers that are public and that haven't locked down their API or what have you. I don't know. All I'm saying is like, yeah, there's some really nice attributes of this, some nice qualities that. So you've also got a repo to check in code if you'd like to. And if we do end up showing a leaderboard, if you get done with the project, yes, you'll have to check in your code because other community members here have to sustain it in your absence after you inevitably graduate and move on. Or maybe you don't, and that would be great. Stick around. Yeah.
All right,
Oh, no.
sweet. Thanks, Lee. I think we can move to the next topic, table prayer.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry, was my video not on that whole time?
Yeah, like I think the past 5 minutes. Sorry.
Maybe that was for the better. I don't know, but oops.
Okay, so the next topic is by Shubhradeep. So in the forward, you wanna share your screen? If you're speaking, you can.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, but there's a lot of background noise.
Now it's okay.
A little better, but there's still a lot of background noise.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. So, but I'm sharing my screen.
Cool, Subradip. We can't hear you, but it's a nice looking design. It's early morning for me, so I haven't caught up on messages that I might have missed last night. But just one point of feedback is that people are visitors of the site. Okay, in your second design on the right, where you don't have a border around the card, while it may not be as aesthetically pleasing, people are less likely to be tricked into thinking that they can click on the card, because almost all cards on our site you can click on. And so, yeah, that's, I mean, that was probably my only point of feedback, because otherwise it's pretty nice what you have. I would say, like, I would suggest that instead of having 1, 2, and think about this, if you would, is it important 1, 2, and 3? Well, that's what we're accenting with the green color. So it must be, right? That's our action color. That's our primary. Well, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. Like, is it clickable, or do they happen in order and sequence? No, they don't. Okay. It's not clickable. It doesn't happen in sequence. It's just the fact that we have 3 features in here. Okay. Well, what is important? Well, the graphic is pretty compelling. What if instead of having the numbers in there, the small image was inside of the green? That's worth trying out. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they clash or something, but it's worth seeing. If that doesn't work because of color clash or something, maybe inverting your coloring such that the graphics, the 3 images, they're in a white background while the text is in green. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too much green on the site. It's like as if you could ever have too much green, right? But maybe it's actually happened before. We've had too much green. As a matter of fact, it happens more often than you think. It's meant to be an accent color, not a, but super dip, I hope, yeah. All right, are we recording this? Let's stop the record. Hold on, we'll go back, we'll erase that part.
Am I audible now? I don't know why
Yeah, sir.
I
You are.
it's not in that time. Okay, I will
If you want, I can share it for you.
okay.
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay, so previously I used the box shadow, and then they said that if we add a drop shadow, then user might think it's a clickable card. So I removed this and created 2 types of design. One is with border and one is with without border. So Lee, can you please give me some suggestions, because previously I was not able to hear you also. I don't know what's the problem at the time.
I'm going to shut my yapper because people are totally sick of listening to me on this call. There's a couple of others on that Nikhil and Devapriya that had heard what I said, and maybe they'll.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
I'll
So
continue.
basically, one suggestion was we could lose the numbers and maybe have the image inside the card. And to just chime in here, after looking at this design, I was kind of trying to find some more. So the thing about that, like we could do something like this. You can see my whole screen, right?
Yeah.
So what Lee was also suggesting was instead of that green number, you have it in the like the image in the card and maybe the text like this. Or
Okay.
maybe something like this, where this could be an image and this could be the text. I'm not sure. Like basically, like the card, it just looks like there's a form right next to it, too many boxes, and it looks like it's clickable. So maybe a little bit of more open space, which could be like any of like there are a lot of. This is, I think, so much of complication will not be required, but something simple, not maybe a card.
Okay.
So if you could like iterate on the design, like the approach is good, but like I think it'll be the best to lose the card for me.
Okay, sure. I will make some changes on
Yeah, but what do others think on the call?
that. Okay.
Any other suggestions or feedback? So basically, the focus has to be on the image and the text, right? So that is what the aim has to be. Anyone has anything else to add into this? What did you think of these designs? Anything which we can go ahead with? Maybe have the Docker logo here and something like that. I'm not sure.
These designs look great, but I think it won't look great if we use it in a small part of the page. It looks great if we in a presentation kind of thing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so presentation, like it doesn't have to fit over here. We can change like the layout later on because we could add more features as well. Like the Docker extension will have way more features in the future. So we could like if we have a good design in mind, I think we can play around with the layout. It doesn't have to be strictly over here. So yeah, all that can be incorporated. But yeah, the font has to be small enough, not like the newcomer's font, which is like it spans across the page. Mostly because the first name and the last name, these are fields which do not take that much of space. So preferably small, but yeah, we can play around with the page if you're designing it. Doesn't have to fit everywhere. Any other feedback, or Shubhradeep, are you like clear with where you want to go ahead with this?
Okay,
Yeah,
understood. I will make some changes on that, and later on I will update.
Lee, were you saying something?
Yeah, I'll put it into chat. Sorry.
So next we have another design which Abhijay was working on. Abhijay, you're on the call, right?
Yep.
Do you want to share, or should I?
Yeah, so you can like just click on that link. So I updated the gradient and the image, and it is looking something like this. So let me know if we need to change anything else, or if not, then we can like implement that.
This kind of makes me think like too much green. Too much.
That's actual blasphemy. I can't believe someone said that on this call.
Like
Yeah, also the greens don't necessarily come together. I don't know, you got to think outside the box. Do something totally different. Abhijay, like this is all right. This itself probably works. There's some issues, some challenges. One is we probably weren't expecting to have an actual screenshot of mesh map. It kind of works. It also is discombobulating, maybe to the extent that I don't know if people quite get what they're going to be looking at. And the fact that we're showing them quite prominently, long string of gobbledygook after Meshery mesh sync gobbledygook. It's like, so anyway, that's not necessarily directly your fault per se. It just ends up being an issue for you to deal with because it's like, well, and then you've got a bunch of space that's, you're working with a screenshot that you were given. So it's kind of a challenge. We get a lot of extra space in the upper right-hand corner. That's like, well, anyway, the coloring of the text is pretty small. The apply now is kind of small. Like that's actually the biggest thing they want them to do is click that button. It's not, we're not being, I don't know if symmetric is the right word, but we've got a button that's lower on the left-hand side than we do on the right-hand side. So it just kind of, while the right-hand side screenshot is taller than the text on the left-hand side. So it's like, feels cattywampus. You guys love the words that I'm using today, right? Like, anyway, is the other thing is boy, I don't know if there's ever such a thing as like a bad green color, but the charcoal that we use is arguably dull. And if you're having, it's not that this thing has, not that this call to action has to steal the show on the page, but it is a bit, but I would submit to you that maybe this is maybe we want to avoid this color for a call to action. Maybe not. But anyway, there's just a lot that's an issue. The apply now text is too small for the button that's in there. The rest of the text is, I don't know. It's Abhijay, I think that I like the grit and the perseverance that you're showing through this. I really wasn't expecting any of you to pick this up, the request that was there. You should try something totally different than the call to action for Docker. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like this work. I mean, this works. It worked. People would, like, there's just a number of things that could be changed.
Problem with this is this image doesn't clearly signify what mismatch is. It's just like it's not clearly evident. But I was kind of thinking, what about something like this? Like maybe have Kubernetes and everything. I'm not sure. But we'll have to like come up with not animations, but better images. This screenshot I don't think will work.
We can use animations if we want. Like, it is not that big issue. We can like add some SVGs and hover effect as well.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I'm not sure how much like every call we don't end up finalizing the image, but I would suggest just play around with a little bit more.
Yeah, okay. So I will look into use pink. Okay. So okay, I will try to find something better than this. Yeah.
We do have a pink fallout somewhere on the site. I can't remember where, but it's there. Yeah, can find it now. Okay, so any other feedback for this design or any other ideas? So guys, if you get any ideas, please reach out to us or Abhijay. You can like use the public channels, you can use the website channel. So it's not just him who was like, we're going to be releasing Mesh Map soon and we need the call out to be available in the pages. So if you can think of anything creative or good looking, just reach out to him or any of us. And this goes for everyone.
Okay, hi everyone. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. So I just have a suggestion. I don't know if it has been suggested before. Okay, like that image, the one for Kube and the rest. I don't know if it can be centered, like inside the box. Can you hear me? Am I audible enough?
You're audible, but I didn't quite understand. Like, do you mind repeating?
Okay, you are currently no, to your right. Yeah, inside.
Yeah.
Like those boxes, yeah, 3 of them. Is there a way they can be centered? Like, yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That
That's
makes,
just my suggestion. Maybe
Yeah.
it should be centered, and maybe the text should just come under.
Yeah,
Completely.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It becomes a little more structured. Things are aligned. Like you don't get the wasted space in the upper right hand corner. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Nice. Nice.
Right. So, no other feedback for this then? Cool. So, like I wanna jump to Yash's topic first, Yash and Rohit, because we'll do like overtime today and we can take these at minutes stuff. So Yash, do you like to go first?
Yeah, I will go first. You can open my PR only. So in this PR, first I add the WASM filters in the list of all the all filters in the catalog. And for one other thing I added was to make the file structure a little more clean, as we will be using it in more than one places. It's below all the in all
Yeah, we want it to be on top, right? Because the reason
Yeah,
commencing becomes no one will scroll down.
I tried it with Jekyll, but the main reason is I have to forge the JSON file, the pattern JSON file to change it to bring it in top, I guess. So,
Like, there should be a field call coming soon, right? So based on that, won't it be possible to filter?
there are two JSON files for the patterns and wasn't WebAssembly. Two different JSON files.
Right. I haven't gone through the code, but like we want this to be on top.
I tried that first, but I couldn't find that solution. If we have two different JSON files, I guess I might be wrong. But if anyone knows how to do it, please tell me. I would really want to know.
So like there are so you're saying there are two JSON file for pattern and WebAssembly. So like when you select WebAssembly, it's not coming up.
Yeah, it kind of like the same thing. First I print the whole patterns file, then the WebAssembly. Let me share my screen and explain it better, I guess.
Is there no way to like put them into one file? Because it's all part of the same collection, right? So that is one of our like struggles with the filtering as well. Right now, the filtering, the reason we could not have multiple filters is because on clicking a link, it takes us to the contents of a different file. As of now,
So
I think.
see my screen. I have imported them like this, pattern and WASM, and it have two different files in here, and they use two different JSON files to import the data. And I tried it, and I think I couldn't find the solution for that. And I also tried it on searching on Google, but couldn't find anything on it. So I imported it like this.
Maybe use a separate component where you like call all the collections, like both of them together, and then filter, and use that component over here. Like instead of separately including patterns catalog and WASM catalog, you do the filtering in a separate file, and the results you display over here.
I tried something like that. I tried printing it in here only, inside the patterns only to print it, print the WASM WebAssembly, but it threw many errors and wasn't. I couldn't find the solution for that.
Yash, this is in adding checklists. Is that where this one is on?
This is adding the WebAssembly to all the list of categories.
Okay. Cool. So this particular PR, is still facing the error that you just described, or?
So in this PR, what issue we are facing is that the WASM filters come after the coming soon it comes after the coming soon cards. So we were thinking to move it around here before the coming soon.
Nice. Yeah. I had the same thought. That's great. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, fine. So what you're saying is like, okay, that's really easy to say, but you're kind of dealing with a couple of different, you might be dealing with a couple of different queries inside of Jekyll. And then consequently, you're sort of dealing with two different JavaScript objects potentially, where you might have to, I don't, maybe you're not, but oh, maybe you're not even dealing with JavaScript. You're just iterating through two different Jekyll query. So two potential approaches is like, I realize that you might have any number of, the page that we're looking at is an amalgamation of 3 or 4 different individual HTML files that might be generating a portion of this and a portion of that. And like, so you might have to, as you're doing an include, there is the ability to pass along a parameter. As you invoke an include, you can say include the name of the file. And then also here's a parameter, a variable to pass along. Certainly you can pass strings. So if in here, there's an include statement on line 7, include card.html, or on 5. After that, you can just make up any key that you'd like to, like all cards or something, or all categories, some key, whatever you want to make up, equals a string. Or, and this part I don't know, you might be able to say equals, you might be able to pass along either a Ruby object or a Jekyll object or a JavaScript array, just as a way of like trying to amalgamate, trying to aggregate all of your individual queries or objects into one, such that then you can sequence it like you would like to. Is one approach. Another approach is to update your existing queries to exclude anything that has the status of coming soon. And at the end of all of what you have, just there would be like a footer, if you will, like a tail query that says, okay, now give me everything from all categories, all like patterns and filters and policies and eBPF programs that do have a status of coming soon. And then you'll just tack those onto the end. That would be a third way is to like, okay, like let's escape from Jekyll and let me just grab everything that's there. Since it's not a massive catalog, let's just like grab the whole darn thing, shove it into a JavaScript array or object, and then go into JavaScript and deal with ordering and placement from there of the card. So I recognize that, yeah, some of those approaches, that last one might call for a pretty big step back to reevaluate the structure and the framework by which the service catalog is presented itself. Because I think right now the cards are kind of being written out in line as you go. And to separate out all that and deal with it in JavaScript is totally possible. It's just, it might take a bit of a rewrite of so between one of the first two comments might work better for you.
And if you're able to do like the second thing that you suggested, it might take us one step closer to the multiple filters as well.
Yeah, I also looked in the multiple filters thing, but couldn't find anything on that. I also suggested that you make all the filters in JavaScript. That will be a little difficult, I guess.
Right. So based on the feedback you got today, give it some more thought. I'm hopefully you'll be figure it out. Otherwise, we'll circle back on it again. it. So, you're 10 minutes over time. Just hoping we could finish Rohit's PR like today. Is this your first PR, Rohit?
Yeah, it's my first PR. Yeah.
So you can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so my PR was really simple. It's just 2 lines of code. I just had to add the table of contents. This what Lee has sent. He pointed me what to add and the link also. So I just had to add that to the sidebar. So that was my APR.
You've added screenshots as well. That's it. Again, there's a review on the PR. So yeah, I think there should be a final change that you have to look into.
Okay.
So after that, this should be good to go.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. So what should I have done?
We should be seeing highlighted images for the presentation.
Currently the image that you have used in the docs, it's like the linker is it's highlighted linker, right? So you need to go into Meshery UI and take a screenshot and highlight Cilium.
But I don't remember adding any screenshots or images.
That was in the layout itself.
Okay. I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I think the images are put there automatically by some script.
Okay.
So I think you have to look more deep into it. Like, are there other images in other service mesh that are pointing to same linkerd highlighted text or not? If that's the case, then you have to figure out a way in which we have to highlight the particular service mesh in which we are talking about.
Okay, got it.
Wait. Okay, I know that we're over time, although Rohit said something that I really appreciate, and I say it almost every day, which is like, wait a second, I have no idea what you're talking. Like, where are we? What's going on? Like, that is such a perfect thing to say. And like I said, I say it all the time. There's no doubt I will say it later today. And usually for me anyway, someone will try to explain it, and I usually don't get it the first time. So like Rohit, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I'm not sure that you have it yet. If you do, great. If you don't, like, I would encourage you to be a little selfish and say, no, actually, wait. Or if you're going to go do some homework, that's perfect. But try to, if you can, try to give some specifics about where you think the problem is. Like, let's try to help get you over the hump. Let's not sweep it under the rug, but like,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go on. Okay. Can you scroll a little bit? Yeah. A bit down. So there was a link that was given out by the script, right? So that pointed me to the recent build by the, that one. Yeah. So by that I understood that my build is whatever I've done is changed. Yeah, you can see right there it says Cilium Service Mesh, right? So yeah, so by that I understood that everything's working fine. But what just Gaurav said, I don't quite get it.
Oh, okay. So Gaurav, even I was confused initially. Gaurav said that since this is the page for Cilium Service Mesh,
Yeah.
the screenshot we have linked highlighted. So it's not really a code that you have to change, it's the image that you have to change.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So we basically meant that in the screenshot, this is highlighted.
Sure. So I just have to take a new screenshot with that highlighted and with that highlighted text and add it to the add it to this site, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and also I actually faced an issue while I was installing the whole Ruby and Ruby stuff for this in document, and it's not covered in documentation. Can I talk about that?
Since we are over time, why don't you
Okay.
open up the exact issue in our discussion forum? Just write up
Sure.
the post and post it there. People can reply with that. It'll be helpful, like more than discussion.
Sure.
People can point you to resources to.
Sure. Yeah, sure. That's it for me.
Thanks. So the other topics, I think Akshit's, yeah, I'll just comment on his PR. So thank you all for joining today. This wraps up today's meeting. See you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone. Bye-bye.